Explain how, if at all, the question of money for the wall fits into this, because we hear that that's very important for the administration. There's talk about it up on Capitol Hill. Could that hold up the process?
Well, I think that the wall issue will get addressed, but probably in a different context. It could be a year-end spending bill. You know, there is a lot of discussion right now about how to solve immigration, how to deal with the DACA issue, and how to include in that some border security provisions. And right now, I think those discussions continue. I don't think there's anywhere close to a conclusion on that, but my guess is if that's wrapped into one of the year-end bills, it will probably be the other spending bill. We have to do a budget by December 8th. We run out of money to fund the government, and so we've got to address that issue again. I think it's more likely that wall gets addressed there. The tax bill itself most likely will be focused singularly on tax reform, perhaps a couple of other issues in there, but for the most part it's going to be about reducing taxes on middle-income families and making us more competitive in the global marketplace.
So staying just for a moment with this spending resolution, when you start talking about that, at least our audience starts thinking about shutting down the government. Is the issue of the money for the wall so important to Republican senators that they would be willing to shut down the government?
I think that most Republican senators want to see border security enhanced. Whether that's in the form of a wall or not is, you know, it's going to probably be up to different senators, but I know a lot of our members who believe that a wall can be a technological wall. Yes, it can be partly a physical wall, it can be a virtual wall. There are lots of ways in which you can enhance and strengthen border security that doesn't include necessarily building a physical wall. So how that's addressed in the final legislation remains to be seen, but as long as there are security enhancements that we think strengthen security at the border, I think you'll have a pretty strong Republican support for whatever ultimately emerges as part of a year-end package.
On the subject of the tax reform, we hear from the President and from Secretary Mnuchin that it is really critical that this get to the President's desk by the end of this calendar year. From where you sit, is that realistic? Do you think that that will happen?
Well, that's the goal, David. I mean, you know, the one thing around here, there are always contingencies that can come up, and the Senate's a very unpredictable place. I think if it were left up to the House has structure and rules. They'll be able to move, I think, in a very timely and systematic way, tax reform through the Ways and Means Committee across the House floor. You know, we've got different rules and procedures that we have to deal with here, but the goal is to try and complete this before the end of the year and to be able to put a tax reform bill on the President's desk. But the one thing I can tell you is whether it gets done at the end of the year or you know, sometime into next year, it will be done in this congressional cycle. We have 2 years, every Congress, and we're committed to making sure that tax reform is something that we can deliver for the American people in this Congress. And so I hope it happens by the end of the year. That's certainly the goal, and we're going to try and make that happen.